Hey, 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 hey. Hey, come on in if you're standing out there. If you're sitting out there, you got some time, let's come on in. So if you are an analyst at a business, if you want to be in a business on a big old project, this is for you. This is how you can make your career blow up using like a big old enterprise project as a vehicle for your growth. So if you're on the come up, so to speak, then you come on in. And then if you're manager director level at a business, if you want to be a manager director, this is for you as well. And if you're a chief officer, if you're a business owner, it's definitely for you guys. Come on in and listen up. I'd love to talk to you about your growth and how your career can take off. And the whole purpose of this weekly call is to help people do that. So anybody tuning in here, if you're on, if you got comments, go ahead and put them in the chat. This is restreamed on several platforms. So just chat back at us and we'll try to answer your questions. Okay, so if you're just joining, I'm Joe with Aqueducts, and we're going to be covering how your career can expand and like completely launch using a large enterprise project as a vehicle, usually a software project or like a process project. In your guys' world, like you're in, everybody here is on this call from different worlds, right? So you have the process people, like it usually aligns to an accounting system or operations system. And then you have like, CRM people, the customer relationship people, and that's about taking care of customers. And then you got marketing people, straight operations where you operate machinery or whatever. So this is for all of you, even the ones who are out of the market right now, looking to get in it. This is especially for you. So we're going to look at making your career take off. And today, so last week, we heard from Salim over at, he's the senior director of treasury for a huge brand in retail apparel. And we covered his trajectory from where he started as a finance, like an FP&A manager, financial planning and analysis manager, all the way to senior directory of treasury. It was awesome. This guy started from wherever he was, ended up where like he is now, and it's not exactly ending up. So he's on his way to, the rest of his career, which is a bright, shining career. And what we talked about last week was what it took to invest in the project that's in front of you at the enterprise level, and then use it as like this huge catapult for the career. So I want to cover some of that, and I especially cover.
I'm jumping in real quick actually, because I did want to ask you a question about this. What was a big takeaway from Salim from last week that you would like to share to everybody who's watching this now, who's going to watch this in the future, that we can use for social media? What would be something, the biggest takeaway that you had from that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, my own takeaway was like when he said that he was that his core driver was that he was lazy, that he got so far in that work because he was lazy insofar as that he was wanting all the data to come to him. He was that he had to analyze, and he had like data coming in, information coming in from every different source, and his department had to crunch all that information and let management know where the company was. And if they gave the executive management bad data, then they got cooked. So he was saying like, look, I'm a lazy guy. I want this information to come right in. I don't have to touch it so much. So that was what meant a lot to me. Like he came out and just straight said, he's not some furnace of ambition. Like it was more about laziness. And of course he's not lazy. That guy worked harder than just about anybody. But the neat part about it is that he started from where he was on a large enterprise project. It was an ERP project that also had a reporting and BI or business intelligence project attached to it. So all these projects, by the way, all the tech projects, they're going to be different for everybody. So if you're sitting there watching this, it's going to be different for you. You could be touching another project on process automation, on just dealing with vendors or customers, or whatever information that's out there for you. That was my big takeaway, Alex.
Spectacular. Awesome. Let me see. There's a way for us to get both on there. There you go. Okay. That is awesome. So this week, today, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about how you've used big projects in your career to benefit you from a bunch of different ways, from in a personal way, financial way, professional way, of course. So how do you want to go about tackling that point of or that topic, that general topic?
Yeah. So, I'm launching this weekly call because of how much I benefited. Like I saw everything that I'm about to tell you, that I'm about to recommend that you do. I was there the whole time. So like I was in a PhD program for literature a long time ago, and you fast forward to today, and I own a supply chain consulting business, and none of that would have happened had I not been on a project. And I didn't realize this at the time because I was excited about work, right? I was excited about work generally. I did my work, I did my job for a couple of companies. But on the first company that I really worked for, it was in commercial real estate, and everything started to take off when we had a big, question mark about how to run the entire system. It's the accounting system and figuring out who's paying rent where, and who's late and who's on time. And I had to learn SQL, like SQL, structured query language, to figure out and pull this data. And on that project, it essentially got me completely prepped to jump as a report developer into oil and gas industry for a company that was making $300 million when I got there and was making over $3.5 billion when I left. I like to attribute most of that growth to me. No, I was just kidding. Alex, you just went on mute there.
Oh, I was shocked. I was like, that's why, because those numbers were really big. Can you repeat what you went from where to where?
So yeah,
pressing all the buttons here, and I couldn't. Yeah, because I was like, oh my gosh, repeat that, please.
That was huge. It's such a huge growth, man. I was like, I'm standing there at, I'm just entering in as a report developer. By the time I left, I had gone through something like 3 large projects, one of which was just enormous as an ERP project. And I was a young person, man. I was a young family. I had like 2 kids, and I needed, a trade. I needed to be valuable, and I need to be valued by somebody else. I needed to walk into work and feel like somebody liked my ideas, and somebody valued my work, and somebody thought I was okay. And what's interesting in your career is that the first okayness was just like, oh, this guy he's speaking sense. And so for people out there, or for your team leads or your business owners, you have to recall that the people in the company, the first thing that they're thinking about and they're concerned about is, am I okay? Can I be here? Can I speak this language? And so that's what I did in that company. I came in and I was like, can I be around? Can I be in the same room as all these other people? And it's okay. Because I didn't know. I was just starting out in business. It was sort of silly of me to think of that, like looking back on it. But that's the question for you. Can you be okay in the corporate sense? Can you be okay running a business? Are you okay running a team? Are you an imposter? Do you have the experience? All right, I don't have the experience. Can you learn it on the job? Where do you get the experience? How do you motivate those people around you? If you're a business owner or a team leader, here's the deal. And this is straight out of Brandon Dawson, like Cardone Ventures. Businesses do not move people. People, once inspired, move businesses. So I added the once inspired. So the people you can inspire your people around you, and then they will move the business. Well, see, I was young and I was moving like crazy. I was overworking like crazy, and I could hack it because I was in my early to mid 30s. And so I overworked on this thing. I was in that company 3 years. And by the time I exited, I started my own business and I went into supply chain consulting. And the only thing that really prompted that was that ERP project. So if you have a project right now, put it in the comments and we'll bring you up. So then this company it was 8 vertically integrated companies. All right. So if you wanted to feast on how a business operates and learn how teams work for project cadence, how the project runs, when you should show up, when you should overachieve, when you should just be in the background, how you're consistent on a project, what the project values the most, and what you get out of this whole thing at the end, and also what the company gets out of it at the end. What does a good project look like? So I had to learn all of those things while I was on that project and in oil and gas, and there were 8 different entities. So there was everything up and down the supply chain, from the service level all the way down to the raw materials level and production. So, and all the assembly in between, and the transportation, distribution, the warehouse, and everything. So when I hit the market with my own company, I mean, you have to understand, most people will not see that broad a picture. I had seen 8 different companies operating within one, and how to consolidate all of them. And I had been trained on how to, on the like on the reporting side, like on the data side, on the back end of the system, like I was trained on how to interact with that system. So okay, it says that one of our streams just dropped. So for those people who might have been just dropped off, I mean, we're going to try to get you back here. So you can join on any of the platforms. If you dropped, you can jump onto another. If you dropped, then you didn't hear that message at all. So
Joe, can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, my desktop has completely frozen for some reason, and it's only audio right now. I'm trying to get it figured out.
Okay, I show it's up on my side, so I'm gonna keep on going.
Keep going then.
So like in this project, then I learned how a company operates. I learned how to do technology. I learned I learned how to do the front end of the application. Like, how do you use a business application? How do you be on a project? How do you comport yourself? How do you be, man? Like, this is that was the key question. Like, how do you show up in a room full of people and everybody's so serious, and like the project is really severe, and you know, you have to make progress, and then how do you act? Are you okay? Like, at what point are you okay or not okay? And there are all these senior guys out there, senior like people crushing it, man. These some of the dudes on the project were MBA, like, you know, they were analysts, they were consultants. Some of the ladies on the project were just, I mean, absolute monsters, like in terms of career. Like they were crushing it. They were far more competent than I was in the subject matter. Everybody was like, it felt like everybody was smarter or more in the know. And where was I going to, have anything to say? So, hey, if that's you right now, or if you manage a team or own a company, you have to acknowledge that this is what it's going to look like for your audience, for your team, that people on your team. And, they have their own goals. I had my own trajectory that I wanted to go do. And that's the key change, man. As soon as I aligned what I wanted to do with that project, this is the pivot moment in this live right now. It's the pivot moment in your career. It was the pivot moment for me. It's that project that the business does is an asset for your career. That is the pivot. I mean, everything happened after that happened. After I identified that it was an asset, all of a sudden my productivity, my commitment, my intentionality, all of that raised to massive heights. And I invested, right? So I went all in. I learned that system. I got certified. I asked questions about everybody around me. And if you're not asking questions on those things, you're not invested. So for the people who are on these projects right now, who are running these projects in a corporate sense, right now, enterprise project, the thing costs between $250K to $2.5 million to $25 million for the very large companies or above. When you're on that project, if you don't see that as an asset, then we just have to get and I'm imploring you to do this, because I think it's going to be so good for you, so good for the team around you, so good for the company, is that you see that your own goals align with the company's goals to do this project. If you see that thing as a liability and something you have to do and show up for in your work, and just make it official. I mean, take a look at this and say, look, I either have to have a really good heart-to-heart with my manager boss. I have to go and ask questions of myself. You have to have a long walk where you ask questions of, what you want in life, and talk to your significant other, like talk to your families and your siblings or immediate, family. and then see what's right for you. Because if you're not seeing that thing as an asset, you're missing the largest opportunity there is out there in the market. Because big business, once, like, if it's already done all of its projects, then you're just maintaining the project implementation. Even that can be monetized and made an asset, because the training they give you is valuable, the standard operating procedures, the relationships that you have, like that you make there, the networking that you do, and also, most importantly, what a system looks like when it's working.
Right.
That was my first gig, man.
Wow, that's awesome. So going back a little bit to what you're talking about, what would be, to anybody who let me just ask you the question, what would be 3 or a couple of practical things that you can give as advice for someone who's working on a project like that, like an ERP implementation or a security upgrade that they have in front of them? What are 3 or a couple things that you would suggest they could do to, to figure out how to make it more than that project, how to make it something that they know that they can benefit? What are like the right questions to ask? What are the right actions for people to take in order to make, turn that shift into, this liability sitting in front of me, it's going to take me 6 months to complete, it's going to be the end of the world, it's going to be really stressful, to this is something that I can use to prove myself, to grow my career or to grow myself personally?
Yeah, I want to show you something here on the screen, but I'll just describe it while I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is amazing. So this is like, hold on a second. So tech landscape vendor wall or something like that. So you can, if you've never seen this, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let me see if somebody like has this up. And these are going to be old, like the ones that I'm showing you, but it's still valuable. So this is for marketing. Let me see if I can share my screen. It says screen 2.
You should be able to share your screen. Yeah.
Okay, so check this out. This is a marketing technology thing. This is 2020, so it's already old. And if you see this, this is the marketing technology landscape. These are applications. And if you look in here, you can, like, this thing will let you click on advertising and promotion or content and experience. And as you zoom in, you see all of the different names for the technology. Each one of those platforms would probably take you a couple of years to certify on and be able to certify in and be able to trade on as like a major like. So this changes all the time. So my advice is that since it changes all the time, my advice is that you figure out what you want to do first, because if you're trying to learn a lot of this stuff ad hoc and it's action, look how much the scatter is, right? Because there's so much of it, like so much of the tech projects that can happen in an enterprise. If you don't have a plan and you're just indiscriminately learning these things, you can be like, when you're in college, you could do survey courses for a while and get away with it. In enterprise, you can do that for a while, but every time you float a little bit and drift a little bit more into your career, and you're not hold to something and committing to it, then like, if you're not sure about your own goals and where you're going, what you'd like to hit in your life at the high level. I want to own a cabin in Wyoming by a stream, or in Montana. I want to build my own timber frame structure, whatever it is. So like, unless you're sure about that, then how can you go over and engage with that landscape? And how can you pull value out of that? So I would say commit to what your own goals are first. And then secondly, figure out what the company wants and what your team wants and what other people want. If you're a business owner, you got to figure out what your customer wants and also what your internal team wants. So the thing is, figure out where you're going first. And now I know that's generic advice, but you have to lock it in. I mean, there's really good prep work on this. It's all over the internet on how to like lock in your goals and then discipline yourself during the day to go achieve them. So you showing up to a big enterprise project where you're not sure about you, all you're going to do is somebody's going to hand you your agenda and say, here you go. and you're going to be 4 years, 14 years, 40 years into that career, and you're just going to accept whatever anybody else hands you. And that's a liability, right? It's not, you're not getting to where you want to be. So my advice is that you figure out where you want to be, put it on the map, and then everything in the middle, in the box in the middle, all the apps you have to figure out, the teamwork, the cadence, everything, you will figure that out. Dude, I'm just going to say this, that from what I've seen in the market, the people who know where they're going, they figure anything out. You could give them literally anything and they'll crush it because they know where they're going, and they know that that's, working this project or doing this assignment or that task is going to get them there. Specifically on an ERP project, by way of advice, you figure out where you want to go. You figure out what your great strengths are, align with what's available there at the company, and invest in it. Invest like crazy. On ERP, you got to invest on finance or trade and logistics. You have to invest. Am I a functional person who knows all of this, like how the business runs? Am I a technical person whose attention is always on the code and getting specifications done? So that's the difference for your career, and that's what I would recommend. I think, like, otherwise, just by way of recommendation, once you get that clarity, you're just going to run so fast. Like, I just never look back. Once I figured out it was an asset for getting me progress in the market, I was dialed in. Nobody ever said anything on a meeting without me taking notes and listening and trying to say, well, how does that fit with the rest of my understanding? So yeah, that's the answer to that.
That's a great answer. That's really great. That's really inspiring, actually. Wow, that's pretty fantastic. Joe, is there anything else that you want to sort of add on, discuss in the 6-7 minutes we have left? Sort of like a closing, wrapping point for all this.
Yeah. What I want to do is what's in it for you. All right. So you're listening to me. I could be a brush off. I could be a swipe out. Like, you're gonna listen to me and say, not for me, or I said something that resonated with you. So by the same token, like, you're going to do the same thing with the other things in your life. Like if a large project like ERP or CRM or analytics, marketing, creative, manufacturing, engineering. I mean, look, I showed you that thing just for marketing communication technology alone. There's the same thing is out there for business analytics and everything under the sun. So what I would just want to pass along is that, how does this affect you? Well, it affects you in a big way if you bring the future to the table, if you bring your attitude to the table, if you bring like a lot of attitude, like that you're going to figure things out, it affects you immensely. Here's the deal. I'm going to zoom out for a second. If it doesn't affect you immensely, if it doesn't have that potential, then how come McKinsey, BCG, Bain Company, all the private equity groups, how can all those powerhouses, also tech, right? So tech and engineering in Silicon Valley and all over the United States and the world, how come those places bring people in and just their careers like are crazy after like 3 to 5 years, 7 to 10 years, they're just larger than life? How come they can do that? What are they doing differently? How come IBM and Microsoft, like Accenture, Google, like Apple, how can these people take in talent and then turn great product around, but also help people to grow? And I understand those places can be, sawmills as well for you in your career, but what you bring to the table here is what you're going to get back out of it. As a business owner, I'm going to go right at the top here, because I deal with the CEOs, the CIOs, and CFOs all the time. If you are bringing your A game to the table and you're bringing, if you're invested in your people, and if you're invested in how your systems will affect your company growth, that's what you get out of it. If you consider that, like for the services that you're hiring to run your business, if you consider that your large tech companies, those firms are plumbers or framers, or, like that essentially they're work for hire, so to speak. And I don't mean to disparage those trades. I grew up in those trades, but in landscaping, But like if the attitude is one of that you're hiring servants, then you're going to get servants. And I just like to use the analogy that, especially from the leadership point of view on CFO, CIO, and CEO, you can't hire people to raise your children. So like you can hire people to babysit your kids every once in a while, but you can't hire them to raise them. So like you have to do that yourself. And so that's what I would recommend, is that like you're going to bring the attitude to the table, and that's what you're going to get back out of it. Particularly, and what's in it for you? Well, what do you bring to the table? That's what you're going to get out of it. If you bring really particular goals to the table, that's what you get out of it. If you bring $1 million ambition per year to the table for your company, then you're going to, and your company gets that, you're going to derive something from that. Your company will give you a raise at some point. Even if the company doesn't give you a raise, the market will give you a raise. If you give the company a raise, you're going to get a raise. But the first person who gets a raise is you, and it's you as your own CEO. You have to give you a raise. You got to give your goals a raise. And if you do that, you're going to end up getting a raise in return, because that's what you brought to the table. So that's what I would like to say. And I know that that sounds new age. I know that it sounds like generic advice, but very particularly in these contexts, if you show up and if you bring a lot of enthusiasm, the same boring meeting, the same project you don't like, the same career path you don't think that you're meant for, most people on this call and listening to this are going to absolutely turn their career around right where they sit, because everybody who hires you later, or wants to encounter you later, wants a success story from where you're coming. They don't want, those people were losers and they don't know how smart I am. So that's my last bits there on how you can use a project as the vehicle. Any other questions, Alex?
I think that's it. I mean, I think that you hit it right on the head. It's a great way to end. Is sort of the I mean, it's kind of like any investment, right? The amount, in any sort of investment in yourself, whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out. And it seems like on these projects, it's no different. And I think too many people, and from what you're seeing, are not doing that. They're not taking these projects as investments in their careers, or in their personal goals, or in their professional goals, or their financial goals. And that just, it would just be, seems like it'd be a very supremely motivating project for somebody if they're tying so much into that. It can only lead to really good things.
So that is what I got out of my own career. I ended up starting my own company. I'm a supply chain company now, and I do ERP consulting. We do large data projects as well as large ERP implementation. And this is what I would like to leave you with for actual specifics that you can do.
Great.
The next meeting that you have, be it an interview, a talk with your family, a meeting at work, or a meeting with your teams or your whole company as an all hands. And this is another Brandon Dawson quote: if you're talking, you're pushing, and if you're asking, you're pulling. So the very specific thing that you can do and what you can bring to the table is that first you have to plan your next meeting. Get there early, write down pre-notes for it, and survey the stuff, like how you've delivered there or shown up there before. And then ask the question: how can I work in 3 questions of the people around me where I'm investing in them? Project manager, what would you like from us? Can I get that to you earlier? What are we missing on this project? How can I help? So any of those, like, how did you start off in your career? How did you become a project manager? If you can bring the quality questions to the meeting actually, it's not going to allow for that personal questioning, but you can ask it before or after it. If you can invest in that's what I mean by bringing something to the table. If you can do all your work beforehand, if you can show up prepared, if you can have lists and drawings and whiteboard, and if you can bring ideas to the table, see how it really just do that this week and see how it goes. I promise you it'll change. It will absolutely change the dynamic of where you are. Let's wrap, man.
All right, then.
Do you have any texts or messages coming back from social?
We do not. We have some people watching, so that is good. So we're going to go back in here and see who watched, and do this again next week at 2 p.m. I think these conversations are going to just keep growing and growing, get bigger and bigger, and I think
Great.
there's going to be a lot of benefit for people watching this. And the beautiful thing too is a lot of this stuff is incredible content as well, to be promoting Aqueducts and to be promoting, you know, the work that Aqueducts does, and to attract people to start thinking about projects in this way.
So Alex, this is for everybody who has a story on a project, who has a similar story to mine where they benefited a great deal, or if they have war stories where they didn't, or if they know somebody who benefited. I want to hear that story, and I think it would benefit your other people on this call. So this call is angled at everybody around a project, and that's why I include the you know, the owner of the business, CFO, CEO, CIO. Like we include the officer level, the manager, director, as well as the project player at the line level, because a developer, analyst, or you know, whatever. Because that's the group we're targeting, the people on those projects and how you run them. So if you have any questions for that, or if you ever want to be a guest on you know, this call, let us know.
And on that note, we will take off, and we'll see everybody next Thursday at 2 p.m. Central.
Be great, guys. See ya.